What is the worst thing that has happened at a high school reunion party that you attended? Went to my high school reunion. I honestly don't know why I did. The friends I kept in touch with, well, I kept in touch with. But one friend managed to convince me otherwise, and so I went. The reunion wasn't bad. It was mostly people trying their best to one-up each other in their bid to look successful. I sat down at a table next to my friend where I was actually enjoying my time catching up with long-forgotten acquaintances. During the reunion, there were two people who stood out the most. There was this chick that I barely recognized. My friend and I kept asking each other if she was in our graduating class or a spouse of one. Found out later that she spent close to $80,000 for cosmetic surgery, hence, being unidentifiable. She was so proud of herself that nobody was able to recognize her. Seriously, she could have been a candidate on Botched, but who was I to pop her bubble? The other was a guy who was so snooty back in high school. We're talking the cliché if your address wasn't within a certain neighborhood, you weren't good enough to acknowledge kind of snobbery. Well, he arrived late for the dinner portion and all the seats at his old friend's table were already taken. So he sullenly sat down with the likes of us. Yikes. Having to sit with people you looked down on all your teenage life. The poor man. So I took pity on him because most of the people at the table probably remembered his attitude as well and ignored him. I started asking him questions, of how he's fared since graduation, etc. This was our conversation while the DJ was blasting music and others were yelling over the din to be heard within their own chats. Me, so what are you doing now, snob? The name of guy was changed to protect the innocent. Snob, I work at Smith & Smith attorney law firm. Not a real company, but you get the gist. Me, that's impressive. Are you a lawyer? Studying to be a lawyer? Snob, no. I'm working on it. Me, oh? Articling at your law firm? Snob, no. Me, you work at Smith & Smith. So what exactly is it that you do? Movie moment, I kid you not. The DJ cut the music so that the MC could make the announcement that dinner was to be served shortly. But before that happened, Snob got frustrated with all my questions and stated loudly into the unexpected silence, I'm a mailroom clerk. Everyone stared and hate to say this, accidental justice was served. Snob was taken down a peg or two by his own hands. My class never got to the reunion part. Our class president was MIA. When they tried to plan our 5-year reunion on Facebook, it devolved into people fighting over the venue and whether or not kids were allowed. Half the people wanted to get trashed and get away from their kids if they had any. The other half wanted a dry reunion in a local park with kids allowed. Our class also had no money because they spent it on stupid crap senior year, so people argued over whether it would be catered or a potluck, and how much they would collect from everyone if it was the former. Edit, this was a fund for senior trip, prom, etc. I don't remember where the money came from. Just know it ran out. I would not have gone even if they'd managed to figure something out. Someone confessed to me that I was his dream girl with his fiancée as his date to the reunion. I barely knew the guy in high school. Unfortunately for his fiancée, she didn't know anyone there and he refused to leave with her. He drunkenly said, I'm not leaving with her, I'm leaving with you to me. I told her to text me when their car was outside. Then, I whispered let's go in his ear, walked him out, and put him in her car. I'll never forget the look on his face when he realized who was driving and I said yeah, that's how tonight is going to end. But they still got married so. When I was in 7th grade, this rich snob bully, John, grabbed off my head a wool scarf my mother had knitted for me. He threw the scarf into a pile of muddy leaves and jumped up and down on it. When I went home that day my mother was furious when she saw the torn, muddy scarf. She made me tell her who did it, then she called the school principal and yelled at him. The next day John got pulled into the principal's office and paddled. That was back when they still paddled kids. 55 years later, At our 50th class reunion, John came up to me and angrily said, "You got me into trouble in 7th grade." I got him in trouble? And he's still mad about it, 55 years later. I said, "John, you were a dick in high school and you're still a dick," and I walked away. At my 10-year high school reunion, we had a decent turnout, maybe 100 plus people. We were at a pretty nice hotel banquet hall. There was one guy I had known all through high school, and he was a well-known stoner. I'll call him Chris for this story. I see Chris walk into the banquet hall, stop in his tracks, turn around in a very slow 360-degree circle, surveying the entire room. He just says, "Whoa," and he looks visibly alarmed. He stops and his eyes settle on me. I say, "Hey, Chris. Long time no see, man." He kind of slides over to me and whispers in my ear, "This is really weird. I'm pretty sure I know every single person in this room." And that is when I realize he is wearing the same clothes as all the banquet hall workers. Oh my god. Chris is working as a server at his own high school reunion, and he has no clue what is happening. I walk him out to the front lobby, and explain it's our 10-year high school reunion. He is mortified, beyond embarrassed. He was never contacted, and didn't even realize it had been 10 years since we graduated. He just knew he was working another catering gig in a never-ending series of catering gigs. I make him take me to his manager. I explain what is happening and tell the manager there is no way this guy is working his own high school reunion. Awesomely, the manager agrees. We find a different suit jacket and tie for him, and I take Chris back to the party. He ended up having a good night. This one is just kind of depressing dash. My 10-year high school reunion was of course organized by the popular kids. They girls that still lived in our small hometown and were past their peak. They are really rotten people. I was actually in their group until they started bullying me in middle school. By the time our reunion rolled around, I believe 4 of our graduating class has passed away. At one point they had us all sit down and they dimmed the lights for a slideshow that was in memorial for one of our lost classmates, the one they were of course good friends with. I was so furious I stormed out, maybe because I was friends with another girl we lost. But how self-centered do you have to be to have a class reunion and at least not do some research and have a memorial for everyone gone? Can't say it is the worst thing, just a general observation. My class has been excellent about having reunions every 5 years. Our 8th installment is not too far off. They are very well attended and enjoyable. The one thing I noticed is that as the reunions go by, the folks who have been putting on a show for appearance sake give fewer and fewer fucks as the years pile up. You can see who has been ravaged by years of drug or alcohol abuse. The ones who have let themselves go physically, I'm not talking being a few pounds overweight. Some folks put in no effort to be hygienic in general. Then there are the people who realized too late that when you treat people like shit, no one wants to be around you anymore. There are shit talkers and big deals from HS who kept it going through the first few reunions. New cars, talking about their big houses and endless vacations. They don't talk shit anymore. They've maxed out their credit cards long ago and live life on borrowed time and money. Some have just given up and you can see it. I found that to be profoundly sad. We're all too young to do that. On the other hand, I see some old friends with a regular cadence. We catch up, get the lowdown on each other's families and talk fondly about a 4-year stretch of time that happened long ago. I went to my reunion despite high school having been a shitstorm for me. I was the self-conscious girl who was pretty jumpy when someone would talk to me. I've long grown out of that, so I figured why not go and see who I can talk to now. I spent the night talking with some people who I never talked with because of the whole high school cliques thing. It was a great time, and then someone decided they were gonna get blind drunk. He started a fight with another guy for no reason and the two of them crashed into me and we all fell over into a table, breaking it in the process. I didn't break anything, thank God for being chubby. but I had some pretty intense bruising along my torso and hips. I also had a bruise going across my right cheekbone. The cops were called and the drunk dude got arrested. The guy he picked a fight with was taken in as well, although not under arrest, and I was sent to the hospital. I had to take time off work for a few days and learned how to apply concealing makeup since I worked in customer service then. The drunk guy's wife was nice enough to pay me back for my hospital bill though. I was one of the first recipients of an alumni scholarship from the class of 1999, and for their 20th reunion, the guy who organized the scholarship reached out and asked me to come as his guest to give a speech encouraging people to donate. I live about an hour away now, but I felt pressured and thought, sure. After all, I got the benefit, why not pay it forward? He also pressured me into making a symbolic donation of $10. That's not nothing to me. Wrote a speech, practiced, wrote note cards. Show up at this hotel and the party is in the front lounge. Swarming with people 10 years older than me. I find the guy, he starts introducing me and explaining what I do now, but he gets it wrong every time. Ask him when I'm gonna speak. He says later and tells me to enjoy the food. It's all meat. I don't eat that. Disappears. By random happenstance, in this sea of people having, a reunion, I run into a guy who worked for my old community theater. I cling desperately to him so I'm not alone. He probably wants to, reune. But instead he's talking to me for an hour. Find the guy. Ask him when I'm going to speak. He says soon. I ask where. I'm going to speak. I've just realized there's no stage and the party is spread all over the lobby. He points to where the DJ is, and where everyone's pictures from high school are playing on a screen. Excellent backdrop slideshow of memories behind a girl no one knows or particularly cares about. Another hour passes. It's time for the group picture. Everyone heads over. I stay nearby to be ready. I am among the spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends. They ask who I'm there with. I say I'm giving a speech. They ask when. I say soon. At an adjacent party, a band starts playing. Ve loud. People are shouting to be heard. It dawns on me that I may not give my speech. I go find the guy. Ask, smirking, when I am going to give my speech. He says, utterly guileless, that it looks like I don't have to. But he hopes I had fun. I get home at midnight from someone else's high school reunion with my unused speech in my purse. Haven't heard from him since. Not me, but a former friend of mine. My wife and I went to her high school reunion at a brewery back in Michigan. The former friend of mine showed up after a bit. That friend happened to be in the same graduating class as my wife. I didn't attend the same school. Anyway, she gets there and I asked how she has been. Her response really bad. She proceeds to tell me that her and her boyfriend split up, she has a shitload paying job and so on. Also, it doesn't help that she really doesn't get along with most of her old classmates that attended. The night goes on and everyone is catching up and having a good time. My former friend says goodbye and goes out to the parking lot to her car. She comes back in saying someone ran over her car. Everyone assumed she meant someone hit her car. Like dented the bumper or something. Nope, someone with a truck or SUV literally ran over her car, drove on top of it, and took off. I got invited to my 5 years a few years back. I went to a pretty hick school and my graduating class was like 90 people. I didn't attend because I hated almost everyone I went to school with, but I kept getting added to the group chat every time I'd leave it, eventually blocked them all. Apparently that whole reunion was a shit show. I found out from a friend who did decide to go last minute. They had a big ass bonfire out in the middle of nowhere and the cool kids from high school decided to smoke everyone out while showing off their big ass diesel trucks. From what I was told was that most everyone got incredibly fucked up and a bunch of them decided to start shooting guns intoxicated. The only other notable thing that happened was one of the cool guys who was fucking stupid in high school thought it'd be a great idea to toss a full propane container into the bonfire. As soon as my friend saw him tossing it in, he immediately decided to leave. I have no idea if anybody got hurt or not, but I bet people did. 5 years is not enough time to change anybody, and I will never attend a class reunion. For everyone asking, I live in the Pacific Northwest.